Okay, I literally just got done making another video. I wanted to split these because I don't know how different, or they might correlate a lot. I don't know. But I just felt like, man, that's a lot to put in that video. Like, there's so much to glean from that video. It's crazy. So, anyways, all right, this seems wild. I want to touch on something, and it's back to the animal thing, but it's not. I'm not throwing anything out there. This is my own story, and it might help people see me as a human, right? Instead of some asshole who appears like he thinks he's better than people because he doesn't eat animal flesh. It's not like that, guys. It's not like that at all. I just can't. The thing I can't deal with is the hypocrisy of virtue signaling and saying how great you are when you know what that contributes to, and all the processes involved with it, and the slavery involved with it, and the abuse, and the Satanism, and the torture, and the pain, and God, and everything, and then the toxifying yourself, and the calcifying your pineal gland, and the class 1 carcinogen you're putting in your body. I just can't deal with that hypocrisy. That's why that really just irks the shit out of me. But anyways, getting to my story. So when my niece was here, my niece is a very creative person, right? And she doesn't move fast. Like, she doesn't move quick with a quickness. That's not her style, right? She doesn't jump and move with the quickness. Like, because she deals with things, I'm not going to label her, but I would say, from my observations of her, similar to autistic ADHD and these types of things, right? OCD, these types of deals, right? And but she's very creative. Plus, she's feminine, so she's got all these things, which is completely opposite of my toxic masculine. That when she moved in, I was trying to break, right? And when she moved in, I said, "Man, I wish I was further in my healing before you moved in, so I could actually, because I dealt with a lot of regret and guilt and shame, even though I was handling it at every moment. It would just constantly surface for me because of feelings or whatever else, or ways I would react, or the way I would handle things, or look at things, or from perspectives. And it was because I was still deep in my toxic masculinity healing, and I don't deal with people like that. Like, get out of my fucking way. That's how it was for me my whole life. Move. You're a dime holding up a dollar. Move. And so, one of the things that she would do is my cat, especially my female, is the worst, right? Because my female is really connected to. She can, like, you can just feel that connection. Like, she can read your brain, she can read your mind, she can read your heart, and she's always been like that. And so what she loves to do is stop in the middle of fucking doorways, right? And god damn it, man, when you're toxic masculine and somebody is preventing you from moving forward through an entrance way or an exit way, it's you or them, and that's just what it triggers. I mean, for me, through what I've been through in my unhealed trauma and abuse, it would trigger the fuck out of me, right? So, and even to this day, okay, well, so I've healed that unbelievably so far. I've come so far with that, man. Gwen, since you've moved out, I've come so far with that, and I've been thinking about you recently because especially recently in like the last 2 to 3 months, I've come so far with that, Gwen, like you wouldn't even fucking believe. Like I amaze myself now. And I think of you all the time because of it. Because of this reason. So my cat, especially my female, would stop in the middle of doorways. And my niece, instead of kicking them out of the fucking way like I would do, or screaming at them, or stomping at them, or throwing something at them, or, bulldozing through them, she would stop and she'd be like, "Oh, please move. Please, won't you please? What are you doing? Please move." And then next thing you know, she's sitting on the floor petting her. And I'd be like, "Oh my God, tell the fucking cat to get the fuck out of the way. You got something to do." And then you really want to kick it in, then kick in the poverty mindset when you got the AC running in the middle of the fucking, summertime and all the ACs going out the fucking door. I mean, it was bad. It was bad, guys. My toxic masculinity was so fucking toxic. It was unreal. So, and I think there's a balance. Like, you shouldn't sit in the middle of the doorway and let all your AC go out the door if you're a responsible adult who knows how much it costs to cool down your house and know how hard it is to get the house cold after it's hot and all these things. But anyways, just trying to find a balance here. Trying to find a balance. So she would sit down and she'd pet the cat in the middle of the doorway, and I'd freak out. And that was something that I had to work on, within myself. And so even now today, okay, so there's so many points to this and so many things to be gleaned from this. And one of the other things to be gleaned from this is, like I said in my video I made 2 videos ago, excuse me, like I said 2 videos ago, the one I made this morning, I still don't consider myself an animal lover. Like, when people hear me and they probably think, oh, he's some kind of, nutcase, doing. No, I'm not even there yet. Like, I'm not even there to like going out and rescuing slaughtered animals. You know what I mean? Like, if I even should be there. I'm just saying that's not where I'm at. Like, okay, so I'm gauging where I'm at with my own interior work by the way I treat my own cats. And like, yes, I speak nicely to my cats now. I don't stomp at them. I don't, scream at them. I don't, none of that anymore. However, I'm still not like going through and moving all these emotions and energies, especially recently, that I've been doing. Like, I don't have the energy, time, and patience that I can afford to give to them sometimes. And I just, like, they come up to me and they'll want love, and I'll just pat them real quick, and I'm like, okay, I gave you your love, leave me the fuck alone. Now you give me my goddamn space. I'm working through something here. And and even though I know that the purring of a cat is like one of the most healing things, and to have them on your chest, trust me, I know. I've had cats pretty much my whole life. It's just I'm still working on that, but I don't want them dead. I don't want to kill them. I don't want to beat them. I don't want to see them in harm. I don't want to see them in pain. Oh my God, I didn't even tell you guys, my cat gave birth like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she gave birth under my kitchen sink. And you got the breather valve for your drain under your kitchen sink. And I had rags piled up on my around my breather valve. And somehow she gave birth to 3 kittens. And I knew she was having 3 this time. I knew it. And yeah, I was outside working. I was working around the yard, cutting wood and stuff. And so when I came in, I heard them meowing. And I was like, "Oh, mama, you gave birth." And I was like, "Under the fucking sink?" I was like, you've never given birth under the fucking sink before." And I was like, "What a weird place." Like, out of all the places, I had even set up, spots where I figured she would give birth, and she did it under the sink. It's so fucking weird. And again, it has to do with just another test of how this journey goes. Because what happened was, I came in, God knows, she had given birth. I was outside for like a couple hours. So who knows in that couple hours when she gave birth, but they were already, they were already cleaned off and everything. And I'm sitting there looking, I'm like, "Mama, you only had two?" I'm like, "Man, that's really weird." I said, "I could have sworn that you were going to have three, Mama. I thought my intuition was really on and I was connected with you. I thought you were going to have three." So I grabbed them and I put them, and made them comfortable, and put them in a box and in a corner, because she likes being tucked away. She doesn't like being in the middle of a room. She likes them tucked away. So, like I've always done. And I did that, and she kept on coming to me and meowing and running back under the sink. And I'm like, "What's going on?" And then I heard it, a faint little meow. She had actually dropped. She had literally plopped it right outside of her, directly into a hole in one, into the drain pipe of my kitchen sink. And I'm like, I looked in there and I'm like, "God damn it, what the fuck?" And so the placenta, the tail, because that breather valve is a U shape, right? It's a U shape, and it's only about this, and then it goes about that long, and then it goes into your drain pipe, all the way down into your basement or wherever it goes to, right? And so I shine a flashlight down there. I see the placenta and I see a tail. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, okay, okay. I can get it. I can pull it." I got short fingers, and I got my fingers down there and I'm pulling, the placenta pulled off. I'm like, "Fuck." And I went down and I grabbed the tail, and I'm grabbing the tail and I'm grabbing the tail, and it just slid. It was just slid. It was all slimy. Everything was slimy. And I'm like, "Okay, I got to take my drain pipe apart," right? So I went to go take my drain pipe apart, but the whole thing was glued. And I do, I'm a handyman, and I'm a roofer, first of all, but I'm a handyman and a troubleshooter. But I don't do a lot of plumbing, and I don't really do that much electrical. And so I'm like, I don't know if these joints were supposed to be glued. Like, there's no reason for that. There's no pressure coming through them. I don't see why they would be glued. Like, I would think that breather cap I could have just popped off, but for some reason, and I think it was my boss, because my boss, who is my new boss's dad, that had the stroke, right? I think, and he wasn't a plumber. I think he's the one that put that breather valve on, and I think that's why it was glued. So I don't think it was supposed to be glued if it was installed properly, but it was glued because he had installed it like 10, 15 years ago. And so I'm like, "God damn, are you kidding me? This motherfucking thing's glued." So now I'm like, okay, so now I gotta cut my fucking pipes out, right? Well, by this time, the tail had disappeared, and I'm like, I have no clue where this kitten is at in the pipe. And so I'm like, okay, so I gotta cut this thing at the top. And I cut it at the top, and I'm like, "All right, Richard, where are you gonna cut it at?" I mean, I felt like the magician, that's cutting the box, like, fuck. And the space in my under my sink was so short, and I wasn't sure where the kitten was at in this area. So I was like, fuck, man, I got to go in my basement and cut this thing out because, and then I wasn't even sure if it was in the basement, if it had gone all the way through. So I'm like, but oh no, I could hear it crying. I could hear it crying, and it was at the juncture. So it passed through, and it was at the T, but it sounded like it was below the T, dangling. And so but I couldn't tell how far down the T, and I only got that much below the T before it hits my kitchen cabinet. So I had to go down in the basement and cut it all the way in the basement. Anyways, I saved this kitten eventually, and oh my God, man, I was like, because I felt so responsible, First of all, I had my rags piled up there, you know, so for being a messy Marvin and not having my house in order, and then, just, all these things, and then being and then not having my cat spayed, fixed. I should, this is her like sixth or seventh dozen or litter, I mean. And, I couldn't because of my head injury for those few years. Like I literally couldn't. And I'll tell you why, because of the process to get that, to make that happen was you have to schedule that like 6 weeks in advance, and you have to do it like right in this small window where they're done nursing and then before they get pregnant again. And because my cat is an inside outside cat, and because she was a feral cat, like I got her, she was a feral um, from my sister-in-law and as a kitten. And so she's just has that mentality built into her, of being outside and those instincts. So anyways, so I'm dealing with that. I'm like, oh, I've never gotten her spayed. I'm beating on myself a little bit, and I'm like, but I'm trying not to. So it was really a good growing experience for me, because as I'm going through this, I'm noticing I'm moving quickly, but I'm moving with the purpose, and my heart wasn't racing. All these thoughts were going through my head, like, Richard, you're responsible. You're in all these different ways, and now you have to get this thing out without killing it, because I still had to cut that pipe in a certain spot to be able to reach in and grab that kitten safely without harming it, right? And by the time I got the pipe out, it had quit meowing. And so now I couldn't see it. I'm like, is it dead? I don't know, And, I'm shining a light down there, but the pipe's all nasty and dirty from 30 years of being there, and all the gunk, and then all the shit from the cat, and all it's like, it's just a ball of, it's just what's in there, and it's not moving. And, yeah, so it was just what an experience to be able to see myself go through that with such calm demeanor, whereas if it would have happened 6 months prior, I know my reaction would have been different, way different. Like, it would have taken me probably a day or two, at least maybe a week, to recover fully from it, to literally glean everything that was to be learned from it. Whereas I was actually gleaning and learning within the process, and I'm like, metaphorically patting myself on the back while I'm going through it, going, wow, Richard, you've come this far, dude. Like, you're able to handle this like calmly and like, deal with the shame and guilt quickly of not spaying and messy Marvin house and all of these different things, right? And so it truly was. It was an amazing experience. And wow, how'd I get off on that? This started with, but you can see like so much to learn. Like, we take these situations for granted, and we're always looking for the next experience and the next lesson and the next answer. And it's like, man, each thing is its own treasure trove of wealth of, if you're coming from the right perspective, the ability to face things and see things and notice things and give yourself credence for how far you've come on your journey, and to see all the nuggets and the doors it opens and all of these things, man. And it's just, I guess just a great reminder for how far you've come, and how it affects everything outside of you. Like, my cats are unbelievable. Like, I can't wait to see how these kittens are. Like, here in the next month, couple weeks to a month. Like, because you can tell a feral kitten from, or a kitten that's been born to a mom who was feral at one time, and one that's not, like a domesticated, like long haired, like, those people that pay $500 for a kitten, that's a completely different kitten than these kinds of kittens, So I am wondering what kind of difference is going to be in these kittens that wasn't in her other litters, because my male cat came from, I think it was her second litter, and extremely feral, and still dealing with issues today that were caused by me and everything else. And shoot, let me tell you guys, I know I've probably told that story, but I'll tell you that story, because why not? That she had him when I was just like within probably 6 months of I'd say within 6 months, a year at the most, of my latest head injury 4 years ago or 5 years ago, whenever it was. And what started this whole YouTube journey and everything, documentation. And she had given birth in my closet, and I was really fucked up. I mean, I had all those bad energies, entities, demons, all this shit, man. I was, of my cat, my male cat, because I had two cats. I had a male and my female that I have now. In the male, when I had that head injury, it was like a month later, or I can't remember, but I'm sure I made a video about it. However long it was after. These energies were so dark and dense, and my field was so fucked up and chaotic. My male cat, I'm laying in my bed one day, and he literally came up and shit right behind my head. And at the time, I mean, dude, I freaked the fuck out, right? But, he knew what he did immediately. I mean, he was gone. And it was so wild, because when he left, when he ran out the door, he never came back. And it blows my mind, like, my energies were so deep and dark. And like, that was his final farewell, was like, fuck you, you cocksucker, right? Like, I'm out of here. Like, you are too fucked up for me, And we would see him all the time, down here in the street, going in and out of the storm drains, And he even came up on the porch. A couple of us caught him on the porch a couple different times, but this was years ago. I don't think anybody's really ever truly seen him for a couple of years. But anyway, so yeah, it doesn't end, guys. So after that situation, and he took off, she had given birth to two kittens, and one of them is the male I have now. And she had given birth in my closet, and I had kept them in there because I couldn't function. I couldn't even move them to a different area. I couldn't do anything. I was useless. I was useless. And anything I did do, it was not good. It was like nobody else, nothing alive should have been involved because I was that toxic. And so so I remember these kittens, they got older. They got about 4 weeks old, maybe. And, so now they're crawling around. I kept like this thing there so that way they couldn't get out of the closet, but it was only like this tall, because I needed to get in my closet to get things, and my female needed to get in and out, and all these, whatever. So the barrier I had to keep them in was only like that tall. And then they got to the point where they were just able to get high enough, to climb on a boot or something in the closet, and then jump and grab, and then their little claws going against whatever I had, cardboard or wood, whatever there, and then flop over to the other side, and then come onto the other side and shit and do whatever they did, and it would piss me off, and I would throw them back in the closet. Well, there were two of them, and they were both males, and the one was it reminded me of me and my brother. The one was so calm and very gentle. And when I go to pick him up when he was outside the closet, I'd grab him, and he wouldn't react. He'd just go limp, like, oh, okay, But the other one, which reminded me of me, I'd grab him even he could feel me going to grab him, and he's just this little tiny little sucker, and he'd be like, and I'd be like, you motherfucker, and that pissed me off even more, And so one day, had too much going on. It was just chaos inside. And so I threw his brother back in. And I went and grabbed him, and he pulled the same shit, and this time he scratched the shit out of me. And when he did that, he had flopped around so that way he's cuffed around my hand, and he bit down on my hand. So now he's got all his little claws on me, and he bit down on my hand, and I had him by the neck. Yeah, no, he bit my hand, and then I had grabbed him because he had rolled over and wrapped his claws around me, and I had him by the neck, and I walked him over to the closet, and I squeezed, and I remember just looking at him in the eyes, and with every ounce of hate and anger and toxic masculinity and everything I had in me, I put every ounce of every piece of cock-strong strength I could, and I squeezed. But my soul would not let me put that pressure on him. So when I squeezed, I wasn't putting pressure around his neck. I had literally stopped my hand from squeezing any further, but all the pressure was going in my hand, and I could feel all that hate go all the way down I could feel it. It was undeniable. And I'm just sitting there looking at this kitten, and I'm seething, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And I dropped him, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm fucked up. And so doing that really fucked him up, and that's why my male is still dealing with issues today because of that. And I know that was a very traumatic thing for him, because even though I didn't physically hurt him, I he could feel those energies. And I transferred those energies. I mean, we were connected. And I'm surprised I didn't give him a heart attack. But it affects him even to this day. And I still am learning and working on getting myself to where I'm able to gift this healing back to him, you know? And yeah, not sure what more to add. I started off with my niece and how I've been thinking about her a lot because of the lesson that she taught me while she was here, and how, you know, I just with the growth that I've made recently, especially in the past few months, with how I respond to these cats when they're in doorways, and especially in the past month, is phenomenal. You know, no more, you know, cussing at them, or, you know, I'll tell them to move. You know, I don't allow, if I got to move and get somewhere, and my female purposely sits her ass right in the middle of the floor because she wants a third can of sardines today, you know, I'm like, bitch, move your ass. You know what I mean? But, you know, I'm not getting emotional and allowing and letting these energies, like dark energies, it's just like, come on, let's work together symbiotically. You know, there's things I got to do to make sure you have those fucking sardines. So let's make sure you're not stifling me at every turn. But yeah, again, guys, just so much to glean from every experience we take for granted and everything that comes along our path every day, that we're so used to responding, you know, and I guess that's the point, is to get to that point where we're no longer reacting, you know, and we're able to slow ourselves down enough to be the observer and see how we're thinking in that situation, and see how we're our emotions are going, and to observe these things. Man, that just brought me onto another whole beautiful way I can go about explaining that, but I think I'll save that for another video. Yeah, this is 32 minutes. All right, guys. Yeah, I hope that helps you guys see, like, man, you can really dig into your experiences every day, and that's where your lessons are, you know, that's where your nuggets of wisdom and reclamation and your healing and your opportunities to heal and your opportunities to break through these barriers and these walls that prevent us from moving further in our healing that we've built, you know, that protect us, and that we use our justifications and our excuses to keep up, you know. And it's like we get these opportunities throughout the day to tear those walls down, and you know, maybe we get that opportunity over and 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 over again, and we react. But eventually, if we keep on, you know, dedication to our healing, and these opportunities keep on presenting, then we can slow ourselves down, and one day start observing, and then one day start changing our reaction, our actions, you know, and then really make that difference by tearing those walls down and rebuilding our foundation. So, love y'all. Take care of yourselves. Nobody else will.